The royal family have one of the best and most experienced PR teams behind them, but their strategies were firmly rejected by the Sussexes, who seemed to believe that their ethos to public life and press relations would boost their popularity rather than hurt it. In practice, it would seem quite the opposite is true. While their popularity is at an all-time low, the royal family members have extremely high approval ratings. But saying that the Sussexes made mistakes or the royals have the PR advantage is oversimplifying the matter. Public life is complex, especially for those like the royals who serve their country nearly their whole lives, and their public image begins to take form as children for many of them. When it comes to PR philosophy and the general strategy that the Sussexes have taken, reactive may be the best descriptor. When Meghan Markle and Prince Harry left royal life in 2020, they claimed they were leaving for peace, privacy, and a chance to tell their truth. But 5 years later, they've become one of the world's most overexposed and least trusted celebrity couples or public figures, famous couples in the world. So what went wrong? At the heart of it all is a deeply misguided PR strategy. One built on constant contradiction, grievance marketing, and what many now call selective truth-telling, or just plain lying, or manipulating the narrative, those types of things. But even before they left the royal family, one of their key beefs with staff was surrounding PR. The press about Meghan. Meghan wanted little things corrected in the press. Harry and Meghan were pretty thin-skinned about the press and expected exclusively positive coverage. And if they weren't getting it, they expected the palace to step in to try to make that happen somehow. They wanted every little thing corrected or rebutted in the press. Everything needed to be commented on by her office, and this was not the done thing amongst the royal family comms teams for a reason. When you offer a running commentary to the press on every single little thing printed, all of the rumors, every little story, no matter how petty or inconsequential, then you set a precedent that you'll correct or rebuff every single thing that's even partially inaccurate. You'll elaborate and comment on anything. In the absence of a correction, then, the press and the public will assume that something's true. So, for example, they've come out with a lot more responses about stories since leaving the royal family and are known to either sue or put out statements or comments frivolously. So much so that now, when they ignore something like the surrogacy rumors, it really raises eyebrows. It almost validates the rumor simply because Harry and Meghan aren't commenting on it or correcting it, because they are known to be hyper-responsive. The danger in correcting and commenting about media stories so incredibly often is that you'll inadvertently contradict yourself and validate things that you don't mean to, and also put other people in a precarious position. It goes beyond the immediate, I don't like this story that was written, or this one has a negative tone, this isn't how I remember it, to a long-term impact. Let's take a closer look at how the Sussexes' PR strategy backfired. Harry and Meghan's highly reactive media approach means they were taking everything personally, or at least that's how it came across to the public. They were frequently addressing rumors and challenging stories in the media, even those that were silly little things that didn't matter. Like, why are you using your time to respond to something so silly and small, like who made who cry? Why are you using your time for that? Don't you have anything better to do? Sometimes they would respond through lawsuits or statements or through other interviews or projects at a later time. Like, we see Meghan constantly try to clap back at things anytime she is doing an interview or on stage for something like the Time 100 thing or on a podcast. She always laces in things that she has seen in the media previously that she wants to correct, but she hasn't yet, so then she throws it in there. But she's still engaging in a back and forth over little petty things. They attempted to control the narrative and control how they were seen by the press and by the public. They say it's telling their truth through various platforms, indirectly responding to media or commentary reacting to their behaviors. So while it seems like it was an attempt at reclaiming their own narrative, in their own words type of thing, the inconsistencies undermined their efforts and left an untrustworthy impression in their wake, but also people's impression of you will be something positive if you're acting in a way worthy of a positive impression. If you're doing things wrong and you're being combative and difficult and you're not operating in a way that's going to get you a positive reaction, then that's a you problem, not a media problem of them reporting on it. This is something Harry and Meghan cannot seem to grasp. Harry and Meghan have attempted to take on an emotional transparency sort of approach. They lean into a therapeutic confessional style, speaking about mental health, family rifts, trauma, and injustice, which often leans into a victim narrative tone that's difficult to listen to from very privileged people like Harry and Meghan, who really just wanted control over their story. Which, fair enough. It's normal to not want people saying things about you that's not true, but instead of letting their actions speak, they went on a global media blitz, including Oprah, Netflix, Spotify, Spare, Time magazine, you name it. And here's the real problem. The more they tried to control the narrative, the more they were caught bending or twisting it. Each contradiction chipped away at their credibility, and the internet doesn't forget. So now, the tolerance for them is zero. No one believes anything they have to say because they screwed up correcting the narrative. On the other side of the coin, you have the British royal family. Some view them as institutional, detached, and strategic, which is what Harry and Meghan tried to sort of accuse them of in some sort of a negative way. But if you think about it, it only makes sense to be a little bit more institutional, a little bit more corporate in the way that they work, because they are such a big, deal and have a lot of staff and a lot of people going on. And there's a lot of media outlets coming to them for comment or verification of things. So they kind of have to run like a big business in a lot of ways. But their approach uses the never complain, never explain strategy. And it's built on tradition, restraint, and letting the institution and its actions speak louder than each individual. Stories are shaped through access to the royal press pack and long-term relationships with reputable outlets and from the royals themselves. That's their form of narrative control. And then letting the press pack follow them around on their royal duties, their professional endeavors, they're conducting themselves in a professional manner, so chances are the press will be generally positive. The royals often appear emotionally reserved, preserving the mystique and dignity of the crown, presenting a stoic neutrality that allows the public to draw their own conclusions about them. They're not telling you what to think. This has led to very different relationships with the press, which trickles down to public impressions, because the tone of the press does make a difference. Journalists are human, and if they're being treated in an adversarial manner, visibly disliked by the people that they're covering, it's understandable that that may come through in the writing. And that doesn't mean that it's unfair either. If a public figure like Harry and Meghan are rude to the press, which they have been, isn't that in and of itself of public interest that Harry and Meghan are not nice to the press pack? Like, they were really bent out of shape that this came out, but when they left a tour while they were working royals, they said on the airplane before they headed back home, I think it was Harry who said it, "Thanks for coming, not that you were invited," when they were invited, but regardless, how rude. And when this leaked, Harry and Meghan were really mad and they wanted the story shut down and people to say that it didn't happen, but it did. So their palace was between a rock and a hard place. They couldn't really deny that that happened because it did happen. And Harry and Meghan were mad about it, but it was their own actions. Harry and Meghan see the British press, and press in general, as rather adversarial, especially tabloids like The Sun and the Daily Mail. They view them as hostile and biased, but in order to challenge that from a place of power and inspire change like they claimed to want to, Harry and Meghan needed to be squeaky clean. No lies, no inconsistencies, no manipulations. Otherwise, this crusade against the press is viewed as hypocritical. Meanwhile, the royal family's relationship with the press is seen as much more symbiotic. Though they've also been subjects of tabloid attacks and unfair press, senior royals play a long game, giving selective access and maintaining favor with royal correspondents because there's so much more long-term benefit of building trust with these people whose career is to be a royal reporter. The rota system ensures controlled media coverage that is honest and strikes a balance with keeping private life private and work life public, and getting publicity for work life while keeping privacy in the private life. In crises, like for example the Prince Andrew scandal or Megxit, the palace manages the damage internally and quietly, through simple statements or removal from public duties, not loud rebuttals, which is part of why Harry and Meghan's approach to Megxit was so controversial and disrespectful. Another factor is the frequency of being in the media at all. The British royal family, by sidestepping petty squabbles, drama, and reacting, are in the media for positive things focused on their work or events a huge percentage of the time. A huge percentage of the media, including the British royal family, is positive coverage of actual substantive work and pieces. Meanwhile, the Sussexes suck up so much media oxygen on drama and moody reactions and petty statements that a huge percentage of their media presence is focused on something negative one way or the other. Instead of choosing their battles wisely, Harry and Meghan took on every rumor, every single slight, even the silliest tabloid headlines. And here's what that did. It made them seem petty, it kept them constantly in the headlines, and it gave the public the sense that they were obsessed with being liked. Meanwhile, the royal family said nothing. No interviews, no podcasts, no public rebuttals. In a world where overexposure kills mystique, the firm's silence started to look like strength, Meghan and Harry's openness like weakness. And this has obviously impacted the public perception of each of these groups of people and their respective popularity. Harry and Meghan are polarizing but largely disliked. Their open attacks on the institution and family members have led to declining public favor, especially in the UK, but they've been voted the least liked public figures multiple times. Some people may appreciate their attempts at vulnerability and their modern approach, but ultimately it's difficult to ignore the manipulations and lies they themselves engage in. But many see them as victim-playing, performative, or narcissistic. Their constant rebuttal of rumors, even trivial ones, creates a sense of pettiness and oversensitivity. Some people view Harry and Meghan's approach as a little bit more celebrity, but it's actually not. We've never really seen things this extreme from celebrities. And most celebrities pride themselves on keeping their private life private. Meanwhile, the royal family has been viewed as resilient. Their dignified silence often earns respect, portraying them as composed and committed to duty. Even amid scandals, public support often rebounds because of their measured apolitical presence and the appearance that they're focused on the work. They're not going to be distracted by silly drama. The firm has cultivated generational loyalty and a sense of national identity that insulates them from individual missteps and creates a sense of unity amongst the royals overall. The monarchy reflects British values of restraint, duty, and endurance. Silence and mystique are thereby seen as strengths, and they view the media not as a platform for their personal stories, but as a tool for public service messaging and soft diplomacy, which creates a really good impression. It's a very positive impression. It gives the sense that overall the royals aren't in this for themselves because they don't waste time talking about themselves all that much. And credibility and trust are incredibly important and an increasingly central part of the Sussexes' public image problem and the issues related to their business endeavors. Their repeated narrative shifts and contradictions and provable falsehoods have undermined the credibility of their brand and message as a whole. This factor plays into the larger comparison between the royal family and the Sussex effect within the media. The Sussexes have eroded their credibility so much through multiple contradictions across interviews, documentaries, and books that they have incredibly weakened public trust. For example, Meghan claimed she didn't know anything about the royal family before dating Harry, yet old blog posts and friends confirm she followed them. In Spare, Harry says he never accused the royals of racism, contradicting what he and Meghan implied on the Oprah interview. As these inconsistencies pile up, critics and the public begin to view their narrative as calculated rather than authentic and manipulative. Combined with the fact that the Sussexes frequently position themselves as victims of the press, of the royal family, of various isms, and institutional cruelties, even though some initial sympathy was somewhat high, moderate to high after Oprah, almost immediately the lies came out and public sentiment turned due to the overuse of the same themes, exaggerated, unprovable claims, the sense that they're profiting off their grievances through Netflix, books, and public speaking, and just general victim narrative fatigue, especially when it all seems made up. In contrast, the royal family never engages publicly in victim narratives, even amid crises like Prince Philip's death, Princess Catherine's cancer battle. The messaging remains focused on duty and continuity, which the public often perceives as more respectable and mature, which is a key part of public figures, especially that of the royal family. Someone or something to look up to, something bigger than oneself. And so a measured, more mature approach to public life not only sends a good message and helps them achieve a more respectable public presence, but it also sets a good example and creates a lasting public impression that they are good. They are making good choices. While the Sussexes air private family grievances in a manipulative and one-sided way, and often lie, they look immature, untrustworthy, and much less serious. How can we take somebody so petty and immature seriously? The backlash and mistrust has only grown. When public figures are caught in contradictions or perceived dishonesty, it damages brand and trust, especially for a brand built on truth or authenticity or candor, like the Sussexes have attempted. Critics argue that Meghan and Harry's desire to control the narrative has turned into manipulation. And as they selectively share facts that support their version of events while ignoring or denying context that contradicts it, it creates a narrative of tug of war. The more they try to force a version of events, the more the public digs up receipts to challenge them. Their overmanaged image and attempts at polished documentaries or glossy documentaries, curated interviews, and on-brand talking points has made them seem inauthentic, ironically. The combination of self-pity, self-promotion, and revisionist storytelling feeds into public narratives that they are not trustworthy or genuine, but rather image-obsessed, disingenuous narcissists. When you contrast that against the royal family, who are consistent, if imperfect, while not immune to scandal, the royal family's strength lies in that consistency and institutional reputation. They do not typically rebut accusations or offer detailed personal accounts, which can shield them from being caught in public contradictions by accident, but it can also maintain the illusion of unity, discipline, and tradition when mistakes are made, like, for example, Prince Andrew. The response is decisive but silent. Removals, distancing, or formal statements, not public justification, which also allows it to not become an obsessive media frenzy that continues on and on forever and snowballs out of control the way the Sussexes narrative has. Every time they say something about the royal rift, it's this huge snowball effect where everything gets brought back up and the public is reminded once again of all the wrongdoings that Harry and Meghan have done. So saying less is smarter when you're a public figure. Ultimately, it all comes down to credibility in the end. Public figures who repeatedly contradict themselves lose their most valuable PR asset, which is trust, which is tied so intimately to likability. For Meghan and Harry, their attempts at narrative control have backfired. It's become a liability for them. All their past attempts at correcting the narrative and controlling their image is now a huge liability because they can't keep their story straight. Meanwhile, the royal family's more opaque strategy may frustrate the media at times, but it preserves institutional trust and their personal integrity as well. The danger with manipulating your narrative, especially as frequently as Harry and Meghan have, is that eventually people stop listening. When the real issues arise, like privacy breaches, racism, mental health struggles, those stories lose their power if the public already sees you as someone who distorts the truth and lies. And that's exactly what happened with Harry and Meghan. By the time Spare was published, the public was less shocked and more exhausted, more fed up. In trying to control the story, Meghan and Harry have simply lost the plot. They have been blinded by all the petty little things that they want to challenge or change or want to be seen a different way than everybody sees them, so worried about trying to control how people view them. They've completely lost their way and completely ruined things for themselves, quite frankly. In trying to be relatable, they became theatrical, and in trying to be authentic, they were caught lying. Their PR plan wasn't just a misstep, it was a self-inflicted downfall. One interview, one contradiction, one unnecessary comment at a time. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. And that's what the royal family does so well. They let their actions speak louder than their words, and their genuine one-on-one interactions with people like Catherine at her hospital visit planting her rose are what give insight into who these people really are, and it gives the public a sense that they can actually believe what they're hearing. Because Catherine's not telling it to you and telling you what to think and arguing something. She's just talking to someone, and it happens to be caught on camera and overheard by the press pack, for example. It's a completely different approach. So ultimately, Harry and Meghan ended up destroying their own brand through their PR, just absolute travesty of a plan. I don't even think you can call it a strategy, because it really wasn't. It was just this chaotic free-for-all rage fest. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for joining me for today's video. I sincerely hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Have a happy day, everybody. Bye.